Sure. Yeah. Well, we are right now working on responding to the D.C. Circuit's ruling, and we haven't announced exactly the plans yet. But either there will be we'll be seeking to challenge that decision. There's two options from a legal perspective. Either to seek rehearing from the D.C. Circuit based on errors of law or fact, which we believe there are many in the D.C. Circuit's decision, or to seek certiorari to the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to take the case. Either way, I think this is an issue that we can't allow this case that held that detainees that were being held at Bagram as opposed to Guantanamo should not be allowed to access any court of law. From our client's perspective, that's a totally unacceptable answer. This administration has not come up with an answer to the question that was originally posed to the Bush administration, which is on what lawful basis do you hold individuals for now 8-9 years without charges, without informing them of what the basis of their detention is. And we at the International Justice Network filed the first cases on behalf of detainees being held at Bagram back in 2006, the end of 2006, and those cases obviously took their way to work their way through the courts until this most recent decision. What's at stake in those cases is actually one, a large principle, but two, the lives at stake in these cases are something that often gets forgotten. Our client, Fadi Al-Makaleh, for example, who is the named petitioner on the case, he has now been held at Bagram since he was a young man in his early 20s. Now he's 30 years old, and in that time he has not had the opportunity to even meet with any member of his family. His life has obviously been completely destroyed by this detention, and we're still waiting for a justification as to why Fadi has been held for all of this period of time. To date, he has not been allowed to meet with us. He's requested on many occasions that he be permitted to meet with his American attorneys. We understand that he is aware of the case, and we understand that he was even aware that from his family, from having brief conversations through the ICRC, his family managed to gather that he even knew about the D.C. Circuit Court case that was being argued in his name. It strikes me as a pretty shocking state of American justice when someone's case can be argued at that high level where the Deputy Solicitor General Elena Kagan's name is on the brief, and still the U.S. government denies the attorneys in the case the opportunity to even meet with their clients before such an argument. I really hope that if this case does end up in the Supreme Court, that will be one area in which this administration, I believe, should relent and allow these detainees to have their day in court, and to allow them, at least at the very minimum, to meet with their attorneys to get the full picture of what the facts are that are involved in their cases. To this day, since the U.S. government has not told us what the charges are against our clients, there's no way for us to disprove charges which don't exist. So without speaking to our clients, it's very, very difficult to know what they've been interrogated about, why the U.S. government might have been interested in them, if that's indeed, if that has even happened. To give you an example of the type of shell game that's being played at Bagram, the clients that we represent in this court case are actually, none of them are Afghan, and none of them were captured inside of Afghanistan. They are people who were taken from third countries outside of the conflict zone in Afghanistan or even Pakistan and rendered there from outside of the region. For example, our client Amin al-Bakri, a Yemeni who was a businessman, he has a family. He was traveling on a routine business trip. He traded in shrimp. He also had a jewelry business, and he traveled to Thailand on a business trip, and was disappeared off of the street in Thailand. Not heard from for over a year, until finally a letter got sent, a message in a bottle, as you will, if you will, from inside Bagram via the International Committee of the Red Cross to his family members that received it and found out that he was in fact being held in U.S. custody. And we believe that that Amin al-Bakri and Fadi al-Makla, both those two Yemeni gentlemen who I've spoken about, were tortured in various prisons by either at black sites, CIA black sites, or at known facilities that have now we've started to learn something about. That type of torture, we understand, does not go on now at Bagram anymore, but I wonder why the Obama administration is so reluctant to allow us to even meet with these individuals. It makes you wonder, what is it that they have experienced? What do they know that would be so embarrassing for the U.S. government that even allowing an attorney visit would be detrimental to their interests? I think the response from the Obama administration so far has been shockingly the same as what we've seen in the prior administration with Bush. And despite the fact that Obama ran on a platform of restoring the rule of law, of restoring America's credibility in the world, and in particular to restoring the relations between the United States and Middle Eastern countries, I think that this has been a step in the wrong direction. In fact, we've surpassed even what Bush tried to do in his administration, in that now the United States government not only does it claim the authority to kidnap people from all over the world without any legal process or justification, it now also claims the right to targeted killings or assassinations of individuals without any legal process. So, I think that unfortunately we have seen a turning back to some of the, I think this administration has really turned its back on the promises that it made, in particular with people like our clients who are in exactly the same position as those that are held at Guantanamo. For the Obama administration to say, well, because we have made the decision to imprison somebody at Guantanamo instead of Bagram, that should affect their fundamental human rights, when the decision was 100% within the control of the United States government and remains to this day. If as the U.S. government says, it would be too detrimental or too damaging to give some sort of process to the detainees at Bagram, they're free also to move them, just as they moved them into Bagram, presumably because that was a convenient interrogation center. They're free also to move them out of that legal black hole to somewhere where they could receive process. They have chosen not to do that. So obviously by keeping them there, they've made a statement that that is the most convenient place for them to hold detainees. There's no court that has said they can't move them somewhere else. So you also had asked me about, should I stop and let you?
No problem.
I'm just trying to answer your questions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I understand that. Because I was just about to just interject a little bit. Is it a legal black hole for Obama now, Bagram?
Yes. The Bagram detention facility has replaced Guantanamo as Obama's legal black hole. We called Guantanamo the legal black hole for the Bush administration because there was no other court in which those detainees that were held at Guantanamo were able to go to say, I'm an innocent person, I'm being held wrongfully. And by taking them to Guantanamo, they were taken outside of the jurisdiction of any other country where they could receive such process. The same is true now with Bagram. Because these detainees have been moved to Bagram, they are not subject to any other law. Because of the fact that they are being held particularly in U.S. custody, in a U.S. facility, they don't even get the procedures that any Afghan or any individual that was walking in the streets of Kabul, let's say, would get if they were arrested, let's say, in Afghanistan. So by taking them to Afghanistan, but to a pocket, a bubble, where no law applies and where the United States has run roughshod over the will of the Afghan people, over the will or desires or even the knowledge of our allies in Afghanistan and in the region, I think that is a sorry state of affairs that we've returned to that type of lawless behavior as a defensible position. I think this administration really needs to take a hard look at the facts that are surrounding these cases. There's been a lot of rhetoric. They point to the fact that Bagram is in the middle of a war zone. They point to the fact that, there is a global war on terror. Well, if these things are true, then we have truly, if that creates a justification for abandoning